Hi everyone, welcome to our PTE Plus online lessons. The main topic for this lesson is Summarise written text, and in particular, we're going to be focusing on scoring criteria and having a look at what gives us scores and what gives us marks in terms of the question type. So let's have a look at the exam interface and remind everyone about what we need to pay attention to. So on the top right, we've got the question count, telling us how many questions we've done and how many we've got left. The key here is that the timer does not accumulate. What that means is if you take 5 minutes for the first question, it doesn't mean you're going to get 15 minutes for the second question. If you just take 7 minutes for the first question, it doesn't mean you're going to get 13 for the second question. So that's why we need to make full use of the 10 minutes allocated per question. At the bottom, we've also got the word count here. The word count is going to be very handy when it comes to form. So let's have a look at the different scoring criteria. We've got content, form, grammar, and vocabulary. So let's dive in and have a look at content. In terms of content, you can see here that the content score is divided into 2 marks for all relevant aspects, 1 mark when you have 1 or 2 aspects missing, and 0 marks for complete misrepresentation. Now 0 is quite dangerous because if we get 0 for content, no further scoring is given for any other criteria, meaning that you'll get 0 out of 7 for the entire question if you have 0 for content, so making this a bit risky. How can we avoid this risk? We can avoid it by staying relevant, always taking quotes directly from the text. What we can do here is avoid changing the words too much, because the more we use our own words, the more we run the risk of misrepresenting the text. We can also maximize the content score through various techniques, as well as having a look at the exam questions, the real exam questions. That way we can ensure that we're well prepared for the actual test. The second criteria we're going to look at is form. And you can see here that form is once again divided into 2 different criteria. We've got 1 mark and we've got 0 marks, making this quite easy to discern. Now, form is pretty much basically given to you unless you do something that's completely extraordinary. So make sure that we always get this 1 mark. We can get the mark by just having one complete sentence with a capital at the start and a full stop at the end, and having between 5 to 75 words. And you're going to get a 0 mark if you don't have one complete sentence. So that means if you're putting in more than one full stop, or if you have less than 5 words or more than 75 words, which are also pretty easy to spot given that they have a word count there for you. Remember, always check how many words you've got and check your punctuation, and don't get confused with SST, which does happen a lot with a lot of students. Our third criteria is grammar. In grammar here, what we have is 2 marks when you have 0 grammatical errors, 1 mark for some simple grammatical errors but does not affect the understanding of the text, and 0 marks for grammatical errors affecting the understanding of the text. So this is not complex, just make sure to have correct grammar. You don't have to use the most complex or difficult grammar, you don't have to have the hardest sentences, so keeping it simple will help you here. And we'll also talk about practice and checking in order to make sure that we have a high rate of correct grammar use. The final criteria is vocabulary. Once again, this is given to you because you don't need to have complex vocabulary, just have appropriate vocabulary and have vocabulary that you know, and vocabulary that you know how to spell. So you can see here for vocabulary, we are given 2 marks for appropriate vocabulary, 1 mark for some errors but does not affect the understanding, and 0 marks for errors that make understanding difficult. So keep it to the vocabulary in the text and the words you know how to use. So you can see here our strategy aims for SWT. We've got content, we want to have either 2 or 1 mark, or for form we want to have 1 mark. Obviously we don't want to be missing out on anything here. For grammar we want between 2 to 1, so some errors are allowed. For vocabulary we want the full 2 marks, giving us a total of between 6 or between 5 out of 7 or 6 out of 7, and that should be enough to hit our goal of 79. So don't worry about it. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. See you again next time on PTE Plus.